Well, good evening again, everyone. Hope you guys had a great day. I know it's dreary outside. Glad to see everyone on tonight. Um, we have a brief meeting tonight, just a few committee reports to cover, but hopefully you'll get a lot of great information. So I am going to call the meeting to order at 7:04. And let me read our mission statement as we do every meeting. The Fairfax County NAACP is a nonpartisan nonprofit organization whose mission is to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion by advancing policies and practices that expand human and civil rights, eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being, educational, and economic security of Black people and all people of color. As I said, we have a brief meeting tonight, but we do have several reports to cover. You'll hear from our committee chairs in education, political action, justice, freedom fund, and housing. So our secretary is feeling under the weather tonight. So we'll present the committee reports. I'm sorry, the meeting minutes for last month's meeting and this month's meeting. We'll present them at our next meeting, our next general membership meeting. I do not see our treasurer on just yet. So I will move. Hold on one second. To update my screen real quick. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had the wrong presentation up. I do have a president's report. So let me go through that. We have an upcoming Virginia State Conference NAACP convention is at the end of October. We have voted for 6 delegates to attend that meeting. Karen Camblin, Meredith Havasey, Jenny Igo, myself, Michael Bryan, and Nikki Zimmerman. We were allowed to have 6 delegates, and so happy to report that we are sending 6 delegates to the state convention. We also have a state election, so they will be electing a new executive committee at the state level. So we'll be there, obviously, to vote in those new officers. Next, we have a request from a young lady who lives in Springfield. She attends college at Spelman. Taylor Brigman. She's asked us to support the name change for Van Dorn Metro Station. It is apparently named after a Confederate soldier. So she has a campaign on change.org. So if you would go out to change.org, search for Van Dorn Metro, you can read all about it on change.org and sign her petition. Let's see, what else do we have? And then I just want to send a shout out to our Freedom Fund Committee. We had a Freedom Fund Jazz for Justice this past Saturday. Even though it was rainy and predicted to be bad weather, we did have quite a few people come out to support. I know many of you supported financially, so we appreciate that. And so I do want to give a shout out to our Freedom Fund chairs, Monique Norwood and Erica Scott and Rachel Luckenbach, who pulled that off. It was a great event. And if you didn't make it, you missed some great jazz. like I said, our secretary is unwell tonight, so he will present his meeting minutes on at our next general membership meeting. And I'll circle back to our treasurer when I see them on. I don't see them on yet. So we will move on to our Political Action Committee Chair, Karen Camblin. Karen, are you on?
Yes, I'm on, President Lee. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to give a brief overview of what our Political Action Committee has been doing. We've been working on pulling some events, and we've been working with WIN, continue to work with WIN in developing 3 upcoming voter education and mobilization efforts. Don't forget to vote. Everybody is able to vote right now. At early voting started on Friday, the 22nd. But we do hope that you will support us, and if you're involved with any other organizations, encourage them to help us spread awareness about these events and encourage other folks to attend. Our first meeting, our first event is going to be on October 4th, from 6:30 to 7:30. It's going to be a virtual Zoom, and we'll do a live stream on Facebook. But what this is the name of this event is going to be called What is on the Ballot? And the purpose of this is to inform community members what's on the ballot and learn about what the current issues are and what is at stake. So this is the purpose of this is to inform everybody why it's so important that you use your voice at the ballot box and what is on the line. Our second event is going to be a meet and greet of our candidates with particular focus on our state candidates. This is going to be an in-person event. And the purpose of this is to give community members and candidates, kind of like what we did on the meet and greet before the primary, an opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations. But like I said, we're going to have a short program with our state candidates. And so that will be October 21st, beginning from 2 to 5. And that will be at Lake Fairfax. And we'll have some information coming out about that shortly. Our WIN committee is finalizing the arrangements for that. And then our third and final event is the Souls to Poll. It's Sunday, October 29th. It's Fairfax County's only vote on Sunday day. So we're going to have an event. The logistics for this is still in formation, but it will be in the Mount Vernon area sometime between the hours of 2 and 5. And so this is going to celebrate our right to vote and have everybody. And if you were at Freedom Fund, the wonderful event that President Lee talked about, you heard from Senator Bagby, who said, you know, go to church, go to vote, watch football. So that is we got our marching orders from our Freedom Fund keynote speaker that's what we should do. So please stay tuned. You know, keep follow us on our social media. Check out all of the information is going to be in our news for you. In addition to that, we're also co-sponsoring with the League of Women Voters, who has a wonderful schedule of candidate forums starting on October 2nd. And we're going to be sending that out in our news for you as well. And they're going to have candidate forums for the chair of the Board of Supervisors, our school board, and clerk of court. So please, we're going to have a lot of information that's going to be coming out within the next few days. So stay tuned. And that concludes my report for today. And if Evelyn's on, the chair of WIN, I don't know if I missed anything, if she would like to say a few words. Right, I'm on my phone, so I can't tell if she's on.
Oh, yeah, I don't see her on.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll circle back to her if she logs on.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions for the Political Action Committee? Yes,
Oh, I forgot one important thing. I know you, I'm so sorry,
that's okay.
President Lee. I know, I don't know if anyone have seen these articles that have been coming out that Governor Youngkin has been pulling individuals off the polling, voter poll records. We started seeing reports of 10,300 and something people whose rights have already been polled. And then Virginia Black News released an article, I believe this morning or yesterday, where the number went up to over 17,000. The difference, this new increase is due to what appears the Youngkin administration has reclassified what is considered a felony. So they're looking at, so right now, on what basis? Let me pull up the article. Right now, I know that state is looking into it right now. And you have to bear with me. I'm going to turn my camera off so you don't see me zoom into my phone as I try to read something. One moment. Okay, so the Virginia Department of Elections just released its annual list maintenance report, and it detailed the cancellation of approximately 17,368 Virginians convicted of a new felony after their voting rights had been restored. And so they're looking at where was it? They redefined it to say that anybody who had recurring, they're defining as they're looking at parole violations and are defining those as new crimes. And so ACLU, Virginia State Conference, NAACP, and other civil rights organizations are looking into this, and we'll have a more formal statement. Yes, Matt, I can share the link. And I don't know if there are any other questions.
Yes, there's Les.
Yes. Question for you, Madam Vice President. Since the polls have already opened, is there information currently available on the school board candidates?
What kind of information do you?
Background profiles. I mean, I've looked at my ballot and I don't see party affiliation. So my quick research, I'm not coming up with much background on the individual nominees. So I understand you have your upcoming meeting on October 4th, and maybe it'll be covered then, but I was just curious whether there's any information out there now.
Right now we're getting ready to launch a website. I don't know if you have any particular questions about a question about a particular candidate. I know our start my video. I know that you know, I know that maybe our education chair Sujatha might be able to help on some of the particular candidates, or if you want to talk offline. I know that, you know, since the school board is nonpartisan, I do agree that it's kind of difficult to find out what their party affiliation is. And we're realizing that this year that there are some candidates, particularly on the right, that are not listing it or even acknowledging what side that they're on. Like I said, hopefully we will be releasing our website shortly, which is going to help identify those for both sides. And we're going to come out with a comprehensive list of all of the seats that are currently open and who will appear on the ballot. And we will have a link to all of their websites. And we're trying to pull all of the information into one location. Right now, folks are, like what you said, indicated, are required, or they have to go to, you know, several different sources to get the information. So we're trying to compile it into one space. So if you want to give us like a day or two for us to release it, I'll be happy to, reach out to you and let you know when that website is launched. But if you have a question right now that like I said, maybe the education chair can go into some details of any particular candidate that you would have. Or we can try and answer any question that is, a specific one.
Right. That's fine. I mean, your time frame is fine. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we disengage from this question, I'm not sure did I hear you say that you didn't see, did you not find a Dem ballot and a Republican ballot when you went to early voting? Was there just nobody working the polls? Is that what you're saying? That was handed
No,
out?
no, what I was saying is I downloaded a
Oh,
ballot for my district.
oh, I see.
And
Okay,
when
I understand.
And when
I
I
thought
looked
Les,
at
I thought you'd gone to the polls.
No.
Because the thing is that even though the school board races, for example, are nonpartisan, there are Dem endorsed candidates and they will be on the Dem endorsed, the Dem ballot, and there are Republican endorsed candidates and they will be on the Republican ballot. So when you go to vote early or on election day, that I was like, oh my gosh, what are you saying? You got there were no, that I got a little scared. Sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes, if you go to the site, you won't have any party affiliation necessarily for the nonpartisan races. Sorry.
I just wanted to add real quick, like playing off what Sujata and Karen said, that if you go fairfaxvotes.org, go on there, put your zip code in, your address, whatever, and you will get everybody, and it is a Democrat thing. So you will get the folks, and so you'll know who's who. And I'm not telling you who to vote for, I'm just saying it's out there in the meantime, although Karen can give you more information.
Yeah, Fairfax vote is for Dems, so it'll only show the Dems candidate, but
Right.
So the website that
others
we'll
are-
be posting is gonna post both. I believe the League of Women Voters, if for those who may be in a hurry to get it, is vote411.org. And the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, so they will list everybody as well.
And
Diana,
Karen-
did you have another question? Your hand is still raised.
Yeah, well, I'll take it down. Actually, I was wondering if when it's souls to the polls, will you be, I know this is in the future, but will you be thinking about a food truck again? Because we had Kofi last year and that was exceptional. That really got people interested. Just to make that comment. I know he's moved, but that's
I
all I
love
was.
that. It's always good to get feedback that people appreciated what was there. Yeah, we are gonna
Yeah,
try
big
and have
time.
some kind of refreshments. It will be a surprise. It may not be as wonderful as Kofi's truck, as you mentioned, he is in Petersburg, and I think he kind of put the keys up for a little bit to kind of take care of his brick and mortar, but we will try. I will admit the bar was raised last year. Don't expect it to be that high, but plus we had a
People really
grant
remember
last
it.
year. We had a grant last year, which really helped. This year it is different. So that bar kind of went like this. Grants help. Mhm.
I just had a quick question too, Karen. This is Jesse. I didn't raise my hand. Regarding the disenfranchised that you referenced, 17,000 or so,
Yes.
is that, two questions. One, is that common from previous years, or is this something new? That's question number one.
This is absolutely new. Virginia, the Youngkin administration pulled us out of ERIC, which is, I cannot remember what it stands for, but it was the way in which it was a multi-state group, and that was how the states were able to keep track and update their voting polls. And they used a lot of different data like death certificate and people moving and all of those things to make sure that the rolls were current. We were pulled out of ERIC not too long ago, and we were put into another verification program. And it's not as stringent as what was used before. So they use obituaries. And some of the opponents to this is saying, well, what happened if you have a city with 5 Ralph Smiths and 1 Ralph Smiths pass away? So there is some issues there. So that verification process is not as stringent. Another thing is we're not really, the administration, I shouldn't say we, the administration is not restoring rights as quickly as they have in the past. And so we've seen it's trickled down to almost a standstill. And then this new redefining of what is considered um, those felony charges with parole violations, it appears as if that's what contributed to that increase of up to 7,000. Because a couple of weeks ago, it was at 10,000, and then it did a massive jump to 17. So, seeing all of these being pulled from the polls is not normal. It's a little bit, it is it's high. I don't want to say it's significantly high because I'm not really sure of that, but it is higher. So it's not only is it those that are being restored that have been slowed down, but also those that have been pulled from the the records.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. My second question is, did you say the ACLU is trying to address this, is investigating this? Did I hear that right?
Yes, and once we're done chatting, I will put a link to a couple articles in the chat
Good. Thank you.
anytime.
Ken, we have a question from Ken McMillan.
Yes, I'm wondering, it seems to me like this is a Republican thing of going after those voters who were criminal or whatever. Shouldn't we have a watchdog being able to look at those and see whether it's legit or not? If they're not just removing votes from the voter wardrobe or whatever you want to call it. And they're just not just doing this recklessly. There should be some accountability, because that's actually a constitutional thing, I would say.
Mhm.
So we should have a legal team going after and looking at them to see that they're acting as good ambassadors of the voting challenge. And if they're not, we should hold them accountable. I mean, I don't recall ever with our previous governors ever doing anything like that. It seems like only the Republicans are the ones who do stuff like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. So the Virginia Department of Elections, and this is in the article that I'll be putting the link to. If they had not released their maintenance report, we wouldn't have known. But to answer some of those, once we saw the increase and to answer those questions, I think what we're going to have to start doing is doing a FOIA request. I don't know if like ACLU or some other organization or, I don't want to, put the cart before the horse and say that any organization's doing a particular, but I think getting the necessary information to answer those questions may require a FOIA and or looking at other available records that are public. But I have a feeling that most of the information we need is not readily available. But to answer your question, yes, there are organizations that are tracking this and trying to keep up with it. ACLU is one of them. Virginia State Conference is another one. Justice for. So there are a lot of different organizations trying to figure out what's going on and stop it. And you're right, we are in election cycle, so this is a really bad time for it to happen. Even if suppose we fix everything November, 8th or 9th, it's not going to help those whose rights have been removed. And so we're up against the clock. This is a very fast turnaround. Yeah.
That being said, it would still behoove us to actually get involved in holding people accountable, whether it becomes tonight or later on. The fact that we're taking action for this should be in place so that even if we discover that fraud was done, we can hold them accountable later on. There's no, what's the word I want to say? There's no limit to how late you can be on bringing this, forward. We should be able to do that now, and whether or not it's adjudicated this year or next year, we find something that was fraudulent in their doing, we should hold them accountable, and therefore it will require a revote. But we need to do that better late than never.
I completely agree. And can you imagine if they're doing this now? What will they do during the presidential election on 2024. So you're absolutely right. Like, we need to be diligent now, because it's only going to ramp up. And if
Exactly,
it goes unanswered, it'll ramp up twice as fast.
exactly.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our political action chair? I see Evelyn has joined us. Evelyn, did you have anything to add?
Oh, I'm sorry, I joined a little late. I keep thinking this is at 7:30 and it's at 7. It's one of my meetings. But did Karen go over? I believe Karen has gone over everything. I just want to say that the women in NAACP are strongly supporting this political action activity that we have going on. We're trying to work with Karen to encourage as many people as possible to get involved, to get out to vote, to understand what the issues are. And so we're closely aligned with the political action team. And I don't know, Karen, did you mention about the event in October, or were you going to save that?
I kind of mumbled over the location.
Okay. All right. So definitely please mark your calendars. We will have an event at Fairfax, let me get it right now. Lake Fairfax is the name of the park, Lake Fairfax at Shelter H between 2 and 5. And we're going to have candidates available. We're going to have music. Hopefully, Diana will have another food truck. I'm not sure who. We're in the process of getting one. And we're trying to have all of the restorative rights types of organizations to join us. But we really want to get out the word about what our values are, what we should be voting for. And we look forward to your participation. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, President Neat.
You're quite welcome. Someone asked repeat the date.
Yes, the date is October 21st, from 2 to 5 at Lake Fairfax, Shelter H. We wanted to make sure we had a little cover just in case it's a little inclement weather out there. So we're looking forward to putting on a really informative and entertaining and definitely food-filled event. And so please tell your neighbors, mark your calendar, because we really have to get out and vote. May I say one thing? So I'm living in Sully District, and I noticed that the Republicans, when they and this was I'm alluding to comment made by an earlier member, they actually have who is in what district, who is who's the school board person, who's the district board of supervisor. And so like Karen says, when that information comes out, we hope to make it as clear as rain that who holds our values and who you will be, we hope that you would select based on what is for our best benefit. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, we are going to move on to our Education Committee report with Dr. Hampton.
Hi, everybody. I just have 2 things that I want to apprise you of. One, I want to just let everybody know that I have finally heard back from Dr. Reed regarding the Oakton cheer letter that you've heard me reference for several months. And there is an independent investigation, and that I haven't heard anything back on that. So finally they said that Dr. Reed wrote back. She said, I don't know the answer to these questions. I don't know what's happening. And I don't know where the investigation stands. That was what she replied. And there was talk of her writing an op-ed regarding that issue, and then she could use this issue as a jumping off point for a lot of the issues that they're seeing regarding discrimination and things like that, things of that nature for a lot of different communities of children in our schools, because there are a lot of people who are fighting against the equity work that's being done in the county, and they're angry about their FOIAing the pay for everyone in the equity office, FOIAing, like killing them with FOIAs. There are a lot of entities that are anti-equity entities that are trying to just throw a spanner in the works on equity. And so the argument being that we don't need this anymore, but then that letter really does show is like a really it's a case in point of why nothing is fixed, and the fact that kids just put their heads down and go to work doesn't mean that the situation is fixed. So that op-ed, she also said that she hadn't done anything about it. So that was something that was put on the table in May. Then she asked me to come in and talk with them about it. I asked that Jamie Lane, who is the principal of Oakton High School, that she join that meeting, because I don't want that, telephone tag that what we say in that meeting, and then telephone tag, who knows what actually gets to Jamie Lane, which means I don't know what gets to the school. So that meeting hasn't been set. I, of course, made myself available. She said that they're going to get back to me. So hopefully I'll have some updates for you in October. Though I don't know. It's been a long time now. It feels like it's been 6 months. I don't know whether it has or not since I first brought this to you, and nothing has changed. So that's one thing. Were there any questions about that before I move on to anything else? Okay. The other thing I wanted to make sure to bring to everyone's attention is that there was an agreement with the Office of Civil Rights that they came to with FCPS regarding the lack of services that students with disabilities with IEPs and 504s, that the services that they did not receive during the pandemic time. So there was a suit, there was a settlement, and there's money that the Office of Civil Rights, that FCPS is supposed to pay out to parents in order to help them pay for the services that they need to get those remediation services that were missed during the pandemic. Does that make sense? So there was a settlement, and a lot of families have not gotten that money. And so there's a huge delay, there's a huge backlog. FCPS is sending out emails saying that the money is going out, that they are doing this, and that it's slow, but a lot of families have not received those payments. And so if you got this, I'm just letting you know, and you can tell any friends that may have students with disabilities or children with disabilities to let them know. You can email your school board member, let them know that they didn't get the compensatory services. We are suggesting that you contact your procedure support liaison, the PSL in your schools, to just CC everybody to try to get your money. And the branch will be putting out some sort of PSA, public service announcements, for our community on how to access that, what to do, just what to do to access that money if you put in for it and didn't get it. So recently there was something I just saw about they're requiring tax information. I wanted to share this IRS letter saying reimbursements for special education services are not taxable income, but FCPS is requiring W-9. So it's a little bit, it's a lot of hurdles. And I myself have not gone through that. I haven't done it. We do have one of the members of both Legal Redress and the Education Committee is on this call, Audrey Wiggins, and she said that she might be able to let us know what she did, because I think she was able to access those services. She's also an attorney with the Office of Civil Rights, I think. So maybe she has some insights that she could offer. I think I saw you on here, Audrey. If you're there and have something to share with us, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm on. Hey friends, I'm still
Hi.
processing the information that Karen shared. I'm also in a volunteer election officers for Fairfax County, and Karen's report made me think same day registration is going to be bananas these next couple of election cycles.
Yeah.
And maybe I should volunteer to do same day registration. Anyway, moving on to when I was promoted to special education teacher during COVID. My son lives with Asperger's syndrome and has an IEP. The short version of my story is that during one of the IEP meetings, I was asked about whether or not I spent money for his supports during the time that schools were not meeting in person. And that was my initiation in the process to try to get reimbursement for, when I looked at it, the thousands of dollars I spent out of pocket to support him, because he was not able to get those supports for that would have been required under his IEP. I did have some back and forth with FCPS where they asked me, I was able to produce a receipt from the tutors that I employed. I used the company during that time period. And then they wanted me to prove that I paid personally for this, and like I didn't borrow money from someone to pay for those services. I raised myriad equity questions about that. I happen to be able to pay out of pocket for those services, but someone may have bartered with a neighbor for those services. You know, like I'll cook dinner if your 16-year-old helps my kid with math or whatever. But it's still something the parent had to do. And you know, why does it have to be out of my personal account? Maybe it's out of my spouse's account. Maybe it's out by my mom's account, who was helping me out during that time. And you know, I just thought there were equity concerns with that. I did not realize that they had, perhaps because I was a pretty squeaky wheel and raising all these questions, they ended up processing my claim pretty quickly. I got it actually several months ago. When I reached out to let them know that I was still trying to go through all of my my account entries to show that I paid this particular company using that company's tax ID number, and that, you know, I still wanted my claim considered, but it's taking more time than I thought to do this, is when I was informed that they had processed my claim and I should be receiving a check. So I'm sorry to hear that there are still families who are dealing with this, and now they're looking for different tax information, which seems a little ridiculous. But that's the short version of my story. I was a squeaky wheel. I raised equity concerns, and my claim seemingly got processed faster than others. But it may be also that because I am blessed in that I was able to pay out of pocket. I was, you know, able to get receipts from the company that I use for my son's tutoring services. And maybe I was able to produce information faster than some other folks because I was able to go that route.
It is obviously a very clear equity issue because, you know, if you can't afford to do, like, there were a lot of people who simply didn't do the services, right? So they didn't do the services because they couldn't have afforded the services, and they wouldn't have known how to access the services, even if they, you know, like if they, right? It's like it
Right.
yeah. So there are many levels of this, and I mean, I can't say the
And how
fact.
many parents like didn't take their shift so they
Right.
could help their kid at the kitchen table, and that, you know,
And so there's like,
That's
I
about-
mean, there was a reason for the settlement, and I understand, I mean, the school system is strapped to begin with. I mean, I get it, but that doesn't help with, when there's a deal, there's a deal. So, I mean, it's not surprising. So anyway, like if you do know people who may need to know what to do or to have some supports, we are going to be putting out just some public service announcements just to let people know. Because I mean, I would imagine that there would be a lot of people who don't even know that this exists, you know, in this community. We have a very huge, very large, very diverse special education community here in FCPS, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same, the usual suspects who are not getting the reimbursements. And that is all that I wanted to make sure to say to you.
Are there any other questions for our education chair?
Actually, I just briefly wanted to know, what's going on with TJ. There's a lot of pushback by certain groups of people, certain political side.
I haven't heard anything after that cert petition went through, that the NAACP legal fund is doing. I haven't heard anything, any updates on that.
Because I think it's a talking point for some folks in the election, acting like it's such a horrible thing, and you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
it always
you
is. It is always the case that always the case that somebody's got something to say about TJ. I'm trying to spend as little time talking about TJ as possible until there is something to talk about with TJ that concerns everybody that we should do. I don't see any reason of like continually vacuuming all the air out of the room talking about this school that teaches 2,000 kids a year in a school system of this size. You know?
Yeah, I just thought I'd check. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Hampton. All right, we're moving on to our Justice Committee report. Luke, I think I saw you on.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent.
Yeah, I actually don't have a huge amount to report, except for it's really more of a request for everybody. So there are a series of issues we always follow, and a lot of them have been sort of pulled together on this, what I've described previously as the matrix reform package that Supervisor Lusk was in charge of. All of that information has gone to the police department, and a bunch of groups, and which we were part of, tried to meet with the police department with respect to how the various reform proposals, and ultimately there weren't meetings, there wasn't a lot of interface with the public, and instead Police Chief Davis just told everybody that the changes that are going to be made are going to all be announced to the public next Tuesday at the Public Safety Committee meeting. The Board of Supervisors has a committee of the whole. It's all of the members of the Board of Supervisors are part of the Public Safety Committee. So at 3 o'clock on Tuesday of next week at the Government Center, and I believe it'll be available online, there will be a meeting open to the public, and there are several groups, and the NAACP is one of them that will be trying to get people there. There aren't opportunities to speak at the Public Safety Committee meetings. It's not open to speeches from the public, but it is open to the public. And so if you can make it, or if you can encourage folks who care about justice issues, criminal justice issues, to make it, please do. It's Tuesday of next week at 3 o'clock at the Government Center. There will be some communications going out probably tomorrow, Thursday, hopefully at the latest, with respect to this meeting. And it'll be helpful to have a good showing there. And so, again, you just look for a little information, an email from the branch, from communications about this. It's going to be an announcement. There will be questions from the Board of Supervisors. My guess is that several of the Board of Supervisors members will be peppered with questions that some of us would ask, were we able to, but there are issues related to the use of force policy, issues related to the police civilian review panel, and a bunch of other reform issues that are all going to be addressed during this meeting. So if people from, if branch members can make it, that would be great. And you know, there are other issues that we are going to present in the near future. The data transparency group is developing a website that the branch is going to sponsor, and we need to get that demonstrated to the branch at an upcoming meeting. And then we're still pushing and following all of the problematic issues that we've been following for and been trying to address for a while. But I won't go into all those in depth because I've done that before. So that's where we are. Again, this coming Tuesday, 3 o'clock at the Government Center. Look for a little, there will be a blurb, you know, a communication from the branch with little blurbs about some of the topics that will be of most interest, that are of most interest to the branch. That's all I've got. If anybody has questions.
Yeah. Will this be on channel 16 or streamed?
I think it's streamed. I don't think it's on channel 16. I think it's on a website but if you go to the Board of Supervisors website, the county government website, Board of Supervisors, and then find the link and get to the meetings page, and then there'll be a link on the you know, it's organized by date, and then look on the whatever date Tuesday is. I think it's October 3rd, and there'll be a link for the Public Safety Committee meeting. And
Oh
then,
yeah, those are on 16.
is that on 16? Well, thank you.
The Public Safety Committee meeting, it's on 16.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't have channels anymore, so I've lost track of that. But there. But yeah, it's all on the web as well. Anyone else? Diana.
Yeah, where at the Government Center? It's in the main building, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's I don't know exactly where, but it should be on the communication coming out of the branch.
Okay,
That
thanks.
I've spoken to the communications committee about, so I will soon. Or Pratik or Edwin will. Anyone else? Gone. All right, President Leet, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate it. All right, Mary, just in time. Housing is up.
Okay, hi. My camera's all blurry today. I don't know why. So anyway, that's the way it is. Yeah, so we did a number of things on housing. We had 2 items we were pushing before the board meeting today. One was on the budget carryover. We and other groups have been asking for an additional couple $1 million in rent relief and utility relief to go into the FY24 budget out of the carryover funds. There was about $12 million released from a fund that the board kind of buried pre-COVID and said, we'll just have this on the side in case we don't get enough money from the feds. Well, they got lots of money from the feds, so they released that fund and said, well, we can spend this now. And we said, well, can't, since we're running out of federal money, can't we use some of that money to keep giving people rent relief and utility relief? So we don't, the budget had proposed cutting that relief in half from what it was last year. And we said, well, can't we just beef that up a little bit and cut it more slowly? And they didn't do it. They wouldn't do it because the county Health and Human Services Department had estimated that it only needed half the amount. And they went with that, even though we gave them a fair amount of evidence from people in nonprofits and churches and even our survey of homeless people, testifying that there is still a lot of need out there and a lot of homeless people and a lot of people being evicted. And but it's at their attention now, and they said they'll keep an eye on it and they may give some money later at the next carryover. I also sent in a letter, actually on behalf of South County Task Force, but number of groups have been pushing for this. It's regarding the preservation of affordable housing. At a public hearing today, the Housing and Community Development Department proposed guidelines, kind of administrative guidelines that would be incorporated into the comprehensive plan that would outline how the county staff will negotiate with developers to get more affordable housing units in new housing that displaces affordable housing, which is going to start happening pretty soon. Most of the county's new multifamily housing buildings of any kind so far have been constructed in parking lots or shopping centers or commercial areas. But pretty soon they're going to start taking some of the old garden apartments, which are adjacent to those areas, as they develop transit-oriented development. They already did that to one building with about 700 units this year. And they've tried to do it with another one, but they got put off. And nothing in these guidelines would prevent actually that from happening, from say a apartment building with 700 units for working class families, workforce housing level rents, from being totally torn down and rebuilt into a much larger building that would have some affordable units, but not the same amount that the old building had. And we're trying to think of some way to get more of the affordable housing either preserved or rebuilt when the new housing is built. And the guidelines, I think, they're more than we had before, but they're pretty weak. And I think we need to start looking at some more innovative ways to deal with the redevelopment of the older areas of Fairfax County, so that can be done without displacing people and actually offering benefits to people who are here already, who live here already, rather than running them out of the county because of the rising rents. Another thing that's going on is there's a supervisor candidate over here in Mount Vernon who has made his number one campaign issue defeating a new homeless shelter that's being planned to replace an old over 100-year-old homeless shelter. And this has been in the works for a number of years, and it's all kind of in the design stage right now. And it's been through, years of hearings and meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So he's come out and he's kind of raising a lot of the NIMBY talking points and getting people riled up again about sexual offenders and people who don't look like us and riffraff and he's got next door all lit up in Mount Vernon district, and he is going around making speeches and comments about this. So we're trying to get some folks together to come up with kind of counters that they can put out in next door, or things that we can do to calm that down a little bit, because it's real easy to get that kind of stuff inflamed, and we've already had it inflamed once around here and also in other areas. And it gets really, really nasty. It's really, really nasty. So if anybody has any ideas on, how to keep that from getting out of control, we welcome them right now. We got a couple different groups that are trying to work on that. The fair housing is kind of in the same place. We won on fair housing. We got the 3 things we asked for. We asked for a staff person at the county executive level who would oversee the coordination of fair housing priorities among different departments. And we got that, and he is on board. He's got a real good attitude towards figuring out priorities, which is our second ask, that we prioritize some of these issues. And the third ask was that we have public engagement throughout in prioritizing and evaluating progress. And I think he's into that. We've met a couple times, and he came to the AHAC meeting, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting on Friday. So I'm very happy with the way that's coming along. The Tenants' Rights Committee is organizing a meeting of tenants over in the Beaumont Court area in Reston, and they're trying to get tenants from any of the buildings that are managed by this management company, Quantum, that some of our tenants are having trouble with. So they're trying to, get together a flyer. They got a room rented. They're trying to get maybe, 30, 40 people to come and talk about their complaints and issues, and see if they have a constituency to go take this stuff before the county's housing authority, and get them to take some oversight of this management company. If the management company can't do it, the management company works for the county. These are county-owned buildings, and the county's got to step forward and make sure that the maintenance is done, and that people are treated correctly and allowed to organize their resident councils. So it takes time. It takes time to organize people, and we only have a few people that are working on it. So it's coming along. Ken's been involved with some of these meetings. Do you have a question, Ken?
Actually, I want to make a statement to the whole board here, everybody that's here. I want to say this to tell you just how important housing is. Some of you all have grown up in this area, remember the garden apartments that we were filtrating around the neighborhoods in Fairfax County and other places. Those garden apartments was the seed for all housing for people of color, from people of different races, for the working class. Without those structures being in place, most of you all will not have been able to afford the housing that you are now over an acre or so. You've taken away the middle class of people who work construction work, who worked in kitchens, who worked in doing your laundry and things of that nature. You've taken away that balance. Not only that, you have to think about it another way. And I've said this before, Chief Davis, I've said it to every single supervisor. Where are your teachers living at? If they're not living in Fairfax County, that tells you something. Where are your firefighters living? Where are your police officers living? If they're not living in the county that they work in, you already have the root cause of our problems here. And until you bring those back into our neighborhood, police officers who live in the county that they work in are better police officers because they know the environment, they know the citizens and everything like that. So they have a rapport with the neighborhood already. But if they're coming from other places outside of the county, you can imagine what that brings when they trying to do to stop crime or talk about it, anything like that. I just rewarded Chief Davidson a couple of months ago in person that I was glad to see that one of his officers who shot a guy who was shoplifting sunglasses and killed him over a pair of sunglasses. And I said, you did the right thing because you fired that guy. Now, what do they call it? The policeman's qualified immunity. They're trying to get this officer reinstated. And I told Chief, don't you ever do that, okay? But the point that I'm trying to make is the very nature that allowed you all to live in the houses that you are in now were what your parents, your grandparents, and so forth and so on did with those Gardner House apartments. So you can't keep tearing everything down and then coming up with 14-story buildings that puts everybody in a bind to try to live in that are already unaffordable as it is, okay, to build up the type of nature or the type of community that you want to have. And I say this, if you don't think about this, imagine your workforce housing, which should have been legated to people who are construction workers, who are maids, who work in your cafeterias, who do your fast food, wherever you want to go, your Chick-fil-A's and so forth and so on. If you take away that part of the people, the population, and let them move out to Loudoun County, to Dinwiddie County, or places like that, you're going to have a bunch of rich people living beyond their means and nobody else to do the work that they need to do in the community that they live in. And public transportation is one of the other things, you know. As soon as they say we're going to build a metro here, people, real estate people go rush right in and buy up all the property, okay? You think that the people who need to use public transportation needs to have a place where they can get on a train and get to work and stuff like that? And I'm saying this, I'm trying not to preach to the choir, but I see this over and over and over and over and over again. And I want to say this too. Your largest population of Fairfax County happens to be senior citizens. You probably didn't know that, but when we did the needs assessment back in 2016, that was the largest population and growing population in Fairfax County. I sat on that committee that designed the needs assessment, and I was surprised. So most of you all are around my age. Maybe some of you all you're longer, a little younger. I can see some of the faces and everything like that. But you have kids who are in that stage problem. And when I worked at Home Depot, I had a kid who just graduated from college and he was working at Home Depot. And he said, I'm going to be sorry. You're going to be sorry to hear this. I said, what? He said, I can't find any place to stay around here. I said, so what are you going to do? He said, I'm moving back with my parents. I said, well, where do they live? Oh, they didn't live in Fairfax County, that's for certain. I go, wow, we're losing the strength of what we had. That's my 2 cents. No, that's my quarter. And I'm going to leave it at that. I need you all to get involved.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, I just enjoyed one of Ken's rants. He's pretty good. So yeah, what they're going to be doing, I was having a conversation with Arthur Purvis, who's here at the Jazz for Justice, talking about, well, we could just build more housing and then there'll be trickle down housing to lower levels of rent. And some of the supervisors believe that too. A lot of people believe that. But I think what we're actually doing is we're tearing down all the housing that we could trickle down to. Just because of the way the county developed. We want to put in the new transit-oriented development, you know, near the roads and the intersections and the bus lanes and the metros. And those are all the areas where the old housing is, because they wanted to be near the roads too. All the workforce housing, the old garden apartments. And the redevelopment now is getting into a phase where it's going to be tearing all that old stuff down and building, you know, much larger buildings. The one example I sent the board is where there was a proposal that will be back about tearing down 700 units of old garden apartments and putting up 2,700 units, you know, more stories, bigger, taller, bigger blocking, but they're never going to replace those 700 units because then they'd have to put in like 25% of affordable housing, which is unheard of and infeasible. And our new policy for one-to-one replacement is one-to-one replacement if feasible. So there's total wiggle room to get out of that. It's not any kind of a mandate. It just sets up a negotiation process between the planning department people and the developers, which is all done in private. There's no public transparency on that as far as I can find. So it's, they'll come out and say they did the best they could, and that'll be what it is. It's very difficult to influence that. Dee Dee, you have a question?
Yes. I guess my question is, because I'm a real estate agent and I deal with all kinds of clients, including clients that have housing voucher. And I noticed that a lot of these places, even the new places that they build, they don't have very many units available for affordable housing or for people with housing vouchers. What can be done to increase that to a larger percentage? Because I noticed that they may have one or two, maybe five at most in some places. And I noticed that they build all these new condos and housing units and things like that. And, not much is available out there considering the number of people that need housing.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the units is that new multifamily housing is governed by the Workforce Development Unit policy, which is a proffer. It's again a negotiation between the county planners and the developers when they apply for a zoning change. So when they say we want to build 20, we want to build 30 units per acre here instead of the zoning that's here now, which is like 6 units per acre. So we want a big increase in zoning. So the planning people negotiate with them and say, okay, that means you should be providing a certain number of units that are affordable to people who make 80% of the area median income. And they kind of negotiate around that, and finally they come up with a certain number, but it's usually around, the standard is around 8%. 8% of the units should be affordable to people at 80% of AMI, and a few of them should be below 80% AMI. So that's considered workforce housing, and that's what it's called, workforce development units. But 8% is I don't know, you have to compare that to the salary ranges of all the people. I think more people than 8% are workforce in the county, but that's what they get. And then the vouchers are, two things about the vouchers. One is that to qualify for a HUD housing voucher or even a county housing voucher, of the people who qualify, who meet the fairly strict income requirements, only a quarter of those people who qualify actually get a unit because there are not enough units, enough vouchers. They actually get the voucher. For everybody who gets a voucher, there's 3 more people who qualified for that voucher, but they didn't get it because there weren't enough vouchers to go around. And the vouchers have traditionally been for not a whole lot of rent. They've been for a fairly modest amount of rent. Now, they're changing that a little bit where they're allowing the vouchers to be worth more rent, higher rents to go into higher rent districts. And the new state law, new is about 3 years old, says that landlords have to take the voucher as a source of payment. They can't refuse people because they're trying to pay with a voucher. Now we don't know, we haven't tested to see if they're actually accepting them, or they've turned them away for many, many years. So whether they're all aware of the new law and they're taking them, and the county's actually passing out these higher dollar vouchers yet, I'm not sure, but that's the idea, that they'll give some higher dollar vouchers. People will be able to rent in the more expensive apartments, and the landlords will have to take them. That's one thing I think we're going to propose as a fair housing test that we get on right away, because we've never looked into whether landlords are taking these vouchers. So if we could get some testing done on whether they're being accepted, that would be interesting, and see if they're not being accepted, then what are we going to do about that?
Dee Dee, did you have another question?
No, that was it. It was just my concern about the housing voucher, with clients I have in Fairfax County. That is just not enough units available for them. So,
Well, then anybody has to take them if they're charging the amount of rent that's on the unit, that's on the voucher. You can't turn that down.
right, understand that, Mary, but my point is
It's not enough
that
units to
when they
apply
go
for.
and apply, all the
Yeah.
units have been taken. So that's what I'm
Exactly.
saying. There's not enough units in these apartments
Right,
available
right,
for people to take housing voucher. So that's basically my point, is that they're not putting enough units available for them, which is
right.
a shame.
The occupancy rate of the units in the price range of workforce and affordable housing are like, way, way high full. There's a very small vacancy rate in the apartments that have prices in that range.
Ken?
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want Dee Dee to know that that is also by design. Your workforce people are living in places almost down to Dinwiddie County to come to work in Fairfax County. Your school teachers, your fire department, your police officers, all of them are living outside of the county, because they can't afford it. And these are people who are making over $70,000 a year. Okay, if they can't afford it, can you imagine somebody who's working a minimum wage, which Virginia just raised the minimum wage a couple of years ago? But can you imagine where they have to live? Or let me put it in another perspective. You have a group of people, family members, who are going into a single family home and they're living sometimes 10 to 15 people in that housing, including kids, okay, in that one house that they're living in. Now, I recall my mother and father renting from a landlord in DC. When the landlord turned off the heat in the middle of winter, my mother told my father, and I remember this conversation bluntly, if you don't find us a place to live outside of this where we can control our own heat, we're done. And my mother and father found a house for sale in Southeast DC when it was all white. We were the only Black family that lived in there. And we got our first house. My mother and father both died in that house. Okay. And that was in Southeast DC with a 2-bedroom home that luckily had a basement and everything like that. And I love that house. I remember that. But I will never have the chance to do what my mother and father accomplished. Nobody in Fairfax County is going to do what my mother and father accomplished. Okay. Some of your own children are not going to be able to do that in Fairfax County unless they're making quite a big sum, probably over $100,000 a year. And you need to think about that. So where do we go? We pay, if you've been on 66, I remember in 66 was a 4-lane highway, 2 going and 2 coming. Look at it now. Well, where are these people going? Well, they're going out to where they can afford to live. That's where they're going. So we've built this and we've let it happen for far too long and we're not getting much better. So I hate to rant like this, but I got to bring it up to you all so you understand the validity of just how important this is. So anyway.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Mary, was there anything else?
I'll just mention I did present the survey that we did over the summer with the homeless people about the heat, high heats and how they were interacting with the new pilot program and also what effects the heat was having on them. And we found that about 30% of the people are over 65, which I think is a national trend. There's getting to be a lot more old people who can't afford to live anywhere and they're homeless. And also quite a few of them had poor health conditions and were out in the heat. And we really pushed that people who are older and have poor health conditions really ought to get someplace with a bed. It wasn't even enough to invite them to come and sleep on the floor in the homeless shelter. during the high heat, that they really needed a little more services. And so I presented that to the Homeless Council working group, and also sent it to the Health Council and the Health Director, Dr. Gloria. And I think they're going to take it up at the Health Advisory Committee, which is good. That's the kind of place I think it should be in, because they'll have more concern for the people who are suffering from the heat than the current department, I think. Gladys worked on the survey. She did a really good job.
Oh, hi. Just a quick thing. It's my first time at this meeting. I'm really glad to be here. I've been with the NAACP maybe 5 or 6 months, just trying to get a handle on what's going on a lot. And so I'm on the Tenants' Right Committee. I'm focusing there on the tenants' rights with Sandra and Steve. Sandra and I actually have a planned Thursday morning to go out and walk the neighborhoods and meet people in person, because when we went around with flyers months back, we ran into some people and really found that they were very responsive to talking with us and meeting us in person, because we're trying to build our plan to I'm losing my words here, to support the tenants in, to help them advocate. Anyway, glad to be here.
Gladys has really done a lot on the Housing Committee, both in terms of the homeless issues and the tenant rights organizing.
Just one more quick thing, the heat relief survey, since I volunteer at the Lamb Center, I just go once a week. I've had to kind of back it down there. Anyway, so the guests were really comfortable talking with me, because they see me there, they talk with me there. I'm at the front desk. And there were so many that, at the end of the survey, when I was asking if there was anything else that they wanted to share, anything else they needed, and they were all saying, well, we need housing. And they just went on to explain like a day-to-day situation of how things just kind of dominoed down, because, we can multitask, we can throw something in the dryer, we can get our shower and charge our phone all at the same time, and they don't necessarily have that ability. So anyway, I think the survey was helpful.
Yeah, that part of the survey where we found a lot of people really wanted permanent housing or even temporary housing kind of contradicts what the county's been saying, which is that they have accommodated all the people who want housing, and that the people out there on the streets have refused their services and their offers of housing. And I'm sure there's some of both, but they don't talk about the ones that are standing in line. There's a 2-month wait list, we find out, for the county emergency shelters to get a bunk bed in a county you call it emergency shelter because it means it means you're in an emergency, you're homeless, you need a bed right away. But you call the number and you go through all the intake process, and then they say, well, we'll get back to you when we have an opening. And lately, a lot of people have been waiting for 2 months to get that call back. So I don't know why the county seems to have this whole different set of data than we're finding, but we need to, push these things forward and see if we can get some agreement and resolution and improvement. Okay, I think that's all we have. Michelle?
Thank you, Mary. Great report. Thank you for all that you do and your committee members working really hard. I appreciate it. I think we all appreciate it. All right, I see our I saw our treasurer join us. Don't see her on anymore. Okay, well, we'll save that report for next time. We do have just a few things that I wanted to mention. We do have a few committee chair positions open. I wanted to mention them. I've mentioned them the last couple meetings. So I just want to remind if anybody is interested, we still need an environmental and climate justice chair, a health chair, And recently our religious and faith community chairs who live in Prince William. And so they really they've joined up with the Prince William NAACP, which we're happy for, but we're unfortunately losing them. So if anybody is interested in any of the committee chair positions, please reach out to me. It's really important, especially the health committee, as we're going back into, looks like an uptick in COVID. We want to have that position filled so they can be working with the health department and making sure we get the word out, especially in our community about COVID and other health disparities as well. Is there any new business?
I have a question.
Sure, go right ahead.
Does anybody know the status of the special grand jury that Steve Descano was going to call or be a part of with respect to Officer Shiflett? I thought, last I heard was that jury was supposed to convene in July, and I haven't heard anything. I'm just wondering if anybody else has.
I have not. I can check on that, but I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
Oh.
definitely haven't heard anything.
And I probably won't be at your Lake Fairfax thing because I'm not running for General Assembly. But as a candidate, if you have music, don't make the music so loud that the candidates can't talk to the people there.
Good advice. Thank you. We'll take that under advisement. I think Evelyn is still on. We will take that under advisement. I appreciate that. Any other new or old business comments, information? Well, it is 8:25, so I am going to adjourn their meeting if there is nothing else. And we hope to see you next month at our general membership meeting, and certainly hope to see you out at Lake Fairfax. And we hope you have a great rest of the evening and a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Michelle.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
So, Joss, are you still on here or are you gone? God, dog.